This year marks 50 years since the Supreme Court affirmed a woman's right to an abortion with the landmark Roe v. Wade decision. Every year there's a march here in Washington, but this one was different, with opponents feeling emboldened as states have imposed tighter restrictions.
Thousands, mostly young people, came to march for life.
My name is Michael Urban, and I study political science at Columbus State Community College in Columbus, Ohio. For this episode on Belief and Justification, we are going to be considering abortion. Abortion is not only a political issue, it is also a philosophical one. For those of you who do not know what abortion is the termination of a pregnancy by removal or expulsion of an embryo or fetus. As a focal point, we are going to reference the 1973 United States Supreme Court case of Roe v. Wade. In their opinion, the court essentially holds that a woman is constitutionally protected to the right of abortion. Well, this issue made it all the way to the Supreme Court, so we know that, more than likely, abortions occurred way before this. But how many abortions have occurred since then? We are going to be considering data provided by numberofabortions.com, an organization that tracks abortions as they occur in real time. They hold that since the referenced Supreme Court opinion of Roe v. Wade, there have been 63,848,338 abortions. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be asking some questions tonight, and I'm going to be doing my best to answer them. Question number 1. What is one fact that you think anyone should know before making a justified moral judgment about this issue? Well, this issue is abortion. And as we've referenced, there have been 63,848,339 abortions since Roe v. Wade. I think that's really important to understand just the sheer amount that represents. But in order to put this into perspective, I would like to portray to you an image that I found while conducting research on this topic. Imagine yourself in a surgical room with an unborn fetus lying on a sterile surgical table. We see that this is a body, but what happened to this body is what I would like to refer to as not normal. The reason I say not normal is because when we are born as a whole. We have a torso with limbs connected to the torso and a head connected to the neck, and we're just a connected being. But this picture depicted something different. There was a torso, but removed from the torso were arms, legs, the head. To me, seeing that picture, it was very disturbing. It looked like a crime scene. And just to think that this has happened over 63 million times since 1973 really bothers me. Now, that's just in the United States. But numberofabortions.com reports that worldwide since 1980, there have been 1,657,529,082 abortions. When we look at life as a whole, that is an extensively large number. So why does knowing and understanding this fact help to justify or otherwise strengthen one's moral judgment about this issue? Whenever there's an issue such as this, there appears to be conflicting opinions from different scientists. On one side, a scientist may argue, well, that unborn fetus is just a clump of cells. But to the contrary, there may be other scientists that argue that life begins at conception. Now, that photograph that I referenced was a baby that was aborted that was near term. Did that baby have a beating heart? It is logical to presume that it did. So, if you're like me, and you hold to the side that life begins at conception, to fathom that over 1 billion lives have been lost since 1980, this is factual data provided by a number of abortions.com. If we're to rationalize that, well, this only strengthens my conviction that abortion is morally unjustifiable. Let's get into question number 2. Why does not knowing and understanding this fact potentially weaken one's moral judgment about this issue? Well, with anything, any topic, if you're going to make an informed decision, you have to be provided with data and information in order to make that informed decision. You know, I find Greek philosophy to be quite fascinating, and I would just like to reference an account where Alexander the Great approached Socrates one day, and he posed a question to this great philosopher. He said, "Socrates, how many is one?" And Socrates said, "I don't know. I need some time to think about this. Can you please come back tomorrow?" And so he did. The following day, Socrates is approached. And thereupon he delivers the answer, "One is a great many." Well, that's pretty powerful when you think about it, isn't it? One is a great many. And when we put that into perspective as it relates to abortion, it's very easy for me to say, well, each one of those babies had so much potential to do great things, but they never got the opportunity to do so. Does abortion have side effects? It does. And in a few moments, we're going to be considering some testimony regarding experiences as they relate to abortion and some of the trauma that comes along with it. But knowing and understanding is such a powerful concept. If you don't know, how can you make a decision? The numbers that I referenced thus far have been statistical data. Yeah, I'm not sure how these mothers feel, but if it were me, I would feel that I don't want this event, being abortion, I don't want this event to result in my unborn baby being another number, being added to this data that is increasing ever more every day. So how do we combat that, if that's our goal? Well, it would be to provide information. It would be to provide education so that one can come to the best logical decision for the best possible outcome as it relates to that individual's personal needs. As I think about these things, they seem like they're common sense to me, but is it common sense to everybody? No. Asking rhetorically, does that pregnant mother, does she know that there are other options? if she doesn't want a baby, does she know? Does she know and understand that adoption is a possibility for her? Because if she follows through with abortion, then the numbers of abortions will undoubtedly increase. Does she know that practicing safe sex will significantly reduce the chances of becoming pregnant? But even more powerful than those two reference scenarios, does she know the emotional trauma that could potentially result from going through with an abortion? Well, Human Life Alliance is a pro-life organization that advocates for life. And on their website, humanlife.org, under the subsection, I regret my abortion, I'd like to take a brief moment to consider some real-life testimonies. Jenny states that, and I quote, I'm 28 years old, and I had my abortion about 6 years ago. I think about it all the time. I always thought that I would move past it, but it's only gotten worse. Every time a TV show or program discusses abortions, miscarriages, or sad pregnancy stories, I cry uncontrollably. The decision for an abortion was emotionally painful, yet I didn't feel like I had a choice at the time. Maria states, my culture and my faith speak against abortion, but I chose it anyway. How do I ever reconcile that choice with God, with myself, with my family? But out of these testimonies, perhaps Stacy has the most powerful one. She states, I wish someone had told me. The only two regrets of my life would be the loss of my children to abortion. And as I read those, I feel a deep sadness in my heart because out of all of these, but when Stacy said, I wish someone had told me. You see, this emotional regret has plagued Jenny and Maria and Stacy for a long period of time. Knowing the facts are so important. Unfortunately, the abortions induced by Jenny, Maria, and Stacy are part of the data that I referenced earlier. There are other options. Abortion is not the only issue. I mean, the only chance, the only option. I view it as death. I view it as murder. And death is just so final. But I really feel strongly that as much as this is a political issue, it shouldn't be. And in my opinion, life should always come first. My opinion is rooted in my beliefs, my moral judgment regarding this issue. And as I've stated earlier, my feelings towards this matter are rooted with the data that I've provided, the facts. There have been over 63 million abortions in the United States alone since 1973. There have been over 1 billion abortions in the United States since 1980. To me, that is extremely heartbreaking and sad. Well, let's go ahead and get into our final question tonight. Do you think it is possible for two people to know and accept this fact and still arrive at opposing moral judgments about the issue? Absolutely. If you recall, at the onset of tonight's episode, there were some audio clips being played. One of which was referencing a pro-life march in Washington, D.C. Those would be pro-life demonstrators. The other of which were pro-choice demonstrators who were chanting the slogan, "My body, my choice." We can provide the factual data as it relates to abortion. But will it ever change? How do we find common ground? How do we come to a resolve of the matter? For those who are pro-choice, I strongly believe that the facts don't matter. The facts are irrelevant. I agree that women should have a choice over their bodies. I strongly agree with that. But the disagreement comes to the fact that a baby that a woman is carrying is not their body. It's within their body, but it's a separate life. I feel that life is sacred. Life should be upheld with the utmost respect and sanctity. Life is a gift. And when we choose to move forward with an abortion, we are not only killing an innocent life, but we're robbing that life of so much potential. For the reasons set forth in tonight's episode, I strongly hold that my moral judgment is solidified by the numbers referenced, and that I could never stand on the side of abortion, but rather I proudly and strongly choose to stand on the side of life.